morning, good afternoon, good evening, whatever you are on the globus. Thank you for joining us. This is a Seraphic Attack Surface webinar, actually the first one in the series. So stay tuned for the next one. Today, we are going to talk about browser extension vulnerabilities, and we take you through a real world attack, the Cyber Heaven incident, the famous one. My name is Eran Al-Sheikh, and I am Field CTO at Seraphic. Joining me, Jeremy Sanders. She is the Sales Engineering Director at Seraphic. We will take you through a few slides, and we will wrap up by a Q&A session. So please don't hesitate to drop questions during the session. We will pick them up and we will try to address them as long as the time will be generous with us. But if not, we will come back to you afterwards and with the answers. And in general, don't hesitate to reach out to me and to Jeremy with any kind of questions today, tomorrow, and anytime. So let's start. Okay, so just to put us on the same page, this is the agenda for today. We will take you, here is a quick overview of what we are going to cover. So we go through extension risk. We will try to put ourselves in some kind of explanation. What is extension, and why there is a rise of extension on the enterprise, and then map the risks, and then go to a real world attack, illustrate the Cyber Heaven incident. And then Jeremy will talk about Seraphic a little bit and how we, Seraphics, are actually addressing these kind of issues and these kind of risks. And we will finalize by Q&A. So to put ourselves on the same page, so let's explain, first of all, the extension and the rise of extension on the enterprise and why actually browser extension becomes so popular. So if you think about it, all of us, I mean, every one of us, I mean, actually using extension in a daily matter, whatever browser they're using, it's still, it's easy to adapt, no learning curve. Think about it. I mean, you just download, it's like a new application on your mobile device. User can install and start using them instantly. It boosts your productivity, automate repetitive tasks, seamlessly integrate with business application. Example, RSS feeds, translation tools, document viewer, note-taking, whatever it is. It's easy to integrate with them, with your business applications, and there are much more. Actually, it's relevant to all the worker in the organization, developer, marketers, whatever. Just to put us in a good to know section on this slide, today in the Chrome Web Store, there are more than 145,000 extensions. And this is only on Chrome browser. If you will go to the Edge, and as you know, Edge is actually based on Chromium as well. So all the Chrome Web Store extensions are valid to, can be deployed and installed on Edge browser. But for Edge, there is another web store called the add-on store, which contain another 23,000 extensions. And the same for Firefox, around 42 extensions today. So enterprise increasingly rely on extension, and it's something that it's here to stay. But, sorry. Okay, but together with this great functionality come great risk. So here is the major risk that we try to map over here, that extension could bring into us, to the browser. Think about it, it's some kind of mini application that is installed into your browser and can have access to almost everything. So data exfil, so malicious extension can actually extract and send sensitive data into external web servers. privilege escalation, for example. Extension may request excessive permission, granting unauthorized access to browsing functionality and your machine, I mean your operating system as well. Manning the browser attack. Attacker can manipulate web content through a compromised extension, altering transaction, logging details, manipulate cookies or actually extract the cookies and session tokens. Malicious code injection. Attacker inject JavaScript via extension to execute unauthorized command. Credential theft, key logging, again, cookies as well, sessions, OAuth applications, etc., etc. Lateral movement. So based on risk or vulnerability in extension or malicious extension, actually attacker can attack your, could be the entry point into your machine and then expand his control via the enterprise through the extension. And of course, evasion of security control. Malicious extension can disguise themselves as a productivity tool to bypass detection and so on. So the risk is there. And I think that what is more important to understand that there is no visibility. It's a blind spot for most of the organization today. And I think this is the top visibilities that actually are missing today in our organization. And think about it, in the enterprise today, you have almost everything. You buy the EDR, you have the security web gateway, you have the CASB, firewalls, IPS, IDS, whatever, SIEM, and still telemetry from the browser and visibility from what's going on in the browser, usually you don't have. So starting by no centralized management. So organization lack visibility into which browser extension are installed. Why you are doing it for any kind of library in your development environment and not doing it for extension or third-party software that you deploy in your organization, and you're not doing it for extension. It's the same. So without centralized tools, IT seems cannot be enforced security policy across browsers. The next one is hidden attack surface, making enterprise vulnerable. I mean, attacker exploit these blind spots to introduce malware, keyloggers, or data exfil tool. The unvetted installation over here is the approach of whitelist, blacklist. Since you don't know actually what your employees install on your browser, you cannot manage this kind of blacklist, whitelist, and what actually you can approve or disapprove in the organization. Constantly changing this. This is I like this the most as a blind spot, because usually you can actually vet it, you can analyze the extension, you can decide that you allow your employees to deploy it and install it, but afterwards on the next update it becomes malicious, and you have zero visibility about what's going on over there. And regulatory and compliance issues. Companies that are regulated, for example, HIPAA and GDPR, based on data breach or malicious extension, they can find themselves in some kind of compliance violation, like someone that take PII and send this data to the web, and so on. I hope it makes sense to you. And based on that, and with that note, we will go into the real world attack scenario. So we will cover the Cyber Heaven attack. So Cyber Heaven, just as a brief, Cyber Heaven, ironically, it's a DLP company, data loss prevention, that actually supply or provide their services to their customers via web browser extension. And this is crucial for them to maintain and deploy and this kind of extension to their customers. And it's amazing. Oh, sorry, what I did. Okay. Okay. So So ironically, it's happened to them, but not only for them. So let me take you through the attack scenario very quickly, and what's amazing about it. And this is a classical supply chain attack. By attacking the extension of Cyber Heaven, it's published into many customers that trust them as an extension, as a product that's supposed to save or to keep their data from loss prevention. And this is how it goes. So I will move into laser pointer over here. I hope you see my pointer. Okay. So this is represent the attacker. So it started by targeted attack to the developer, the Cyber Heaven extension developer. Usually you can find it on the web store. Who actually the responsible for this? Who is the developer responsible or the IT administrator behind the extension on the web store? So they targeted it and prepare some kind of a phishing email that I will show you it in a second. And then he click on it. So let's go. Let's take you through the email. This was the email. It's mimic the Google authentic email. Let's say to you something like you have a policy violation from the web store, and they also choose an amazing timing. The timing was Christmas Eve. So think about it. You as a developer of this extension, you really want to go home to your vacation with a holiday with your family. Then you got this kind of email. Then there's some kind of psychology pressure on it. I mean, if I will take you out from the web store as a policy violation, all your customers globally of Cyber Heaven customers will not be something to rely on as what you actually providing them as a product. So this is quite amazing. And when they click on it, they got this kind of form that I'm sure that you as a users saw this kind of forms many times. It's called it's the ability to give permission to someone else to your account. In this case, what happens by malicious privacy policy extension form inside Google that looks very authentic, the developer gave an administrative permissions to the web store of Cyber Heaven, and that's it. Like bingo, he's there. He's like got that persistency and completely disguised and uncovered because nobody can monitor what's going on between the attacker to the web store afterwards. So back to this slide. So here is what I have actually described. The phishing attack, the user click on it, it's opened the malicious Google OAuth application. Again, he gained this kind of authentication access to the account with a high privilege to the Chrome web browser. This is what he did, the developer to the attacker, and the attacker got access into the web store. The next phase of it looks like this. So now the attacker, he have access into the web Chrome. He download the extension from it. He add his code. So now it's a malicious extension, publish it back to the web store. And based on the Chrome auto update mechanism, it deploy it into more than 400,000 users globally. This is quite amazing. In addition, I mean, this is an amazing way to expand the attack from attacker perspective, right? In addition, they establish in advance a malicious domain. It's called CyberHeavenX for extension.pro. That looks like authentic. And the first moment that extensions are deployed, you actually go and fetch data from the CyberHeaven Pro extension Pro domain and get configuration into this kind of malware, malicious extension, and then after he got the configuration, he knows what to do. you know what to do. So in this case of Cyberhaven, it chased after Facebook access tokens, user ID, user account ID, and ads accounts via API. Think about it. He actually, since the data is not on your browser, so since you authenticate via or through Facebook, now he can actually initialize API calls to Facebook and get information from Facebook and send it back to the attacker. Facebook cookies, user agent, and much more. This is how the attack looks like. Quite simple, but very powerful as an attack. Here is a few examples for you from the code of the extension, the malicious extension. So this is a worker.js. In the anatomy of extension, worker.js is something that running on the background in your browser. So you can see over here, this is the fetch post method, which means this is the call to get and bring the configuration from the malicious domain. And here you see the content. Content, for example, is running on your, in the extension anatomy, it's running on your every page. So actually inject into every page and running on the page context. You see over here a regular expression that probably look after tokens, API tokens, and credentials for Facebook, by the way. Here are IOCs of the attack. There are tons of them out there because it was the attack that comes on Cyberhaven was only one small campaign as part of the broader campaign. We mapped more than 35 Chrome extensions that attacked by the same way, and eventually expand into 2.6 million. I mean, based on the users that used these 35 Chrome extensions. If you need more IOCs, you can reach out to me. I can send you from all the campaigns. This is only an example of them, so please don't hesitate. With that segue, the stage is yours, Jeremy.
Yeah, thank you. If you could advance to the next one, sir. Thank you. Yeah, so just, following on with what everyone was saying regarding, the attack pattern, right now we're going to talk a little bit about what we could do along the way to have helped stop this type of attack, right? And you got to consider there's different components involved here. We have one from the developer's perspective, right? And then we have one from the compromised end user's perspective that received that malicious update. Right now, the things that we do inside Seraphic, the important thing I want to make sure we understand, first of all, is we can go in any browser that you have on your operating system, right? By policy, it will automatically install that extension so that we can see anything that happens inside the browser and allow you to apply a security and control measure. So the first one I want to talk about here is our phishing model. Right, so this will use about 200 different heuristics or risk flags effectively. So we model what loads and how it loads, not just reputation, to be able to determine if this is going to be a phishing attempt or if it's a legitimate login or legitimate website. So right here at the very beginning, this is where Seraphic would have stopped the attack on that developer's interaction with that login for the OAuth app, right? We would have been able to identify that one as a malicious attempt, and the net effect is the end user would have received a pop-up letting them know that this is probably a phishing attempt, and then we would have moved that into a read-only session so the end user would not be able to input their credentials into what they thought was logging into the Google Chrome Store authentication. So right away, that's where the attack would have died if Seraphic was running inside the organizations that were compromised, right? So again, because Seraphic sits inside the browser, right, we're at a fundamental level inside there, so we get to see everything that happens, and we have full control over everything that happens. So another mechanism that we could have used to help stop this type of attack from the compromised end user perspective would be encrypting information that happens inside the browser. So we can decrypt the session tokens, right? So if the malicious extension happened and that malicious extension pulled authenticated session tokens out of the browser, they would have been encrypted, right? So they would have been worthless to the bad guys, right? And then of course, session storage, the internal storage associated with the browser, all of that would be encrypted at rest, right? So again, if the bad guys scraping data outside of there, all they're going to get is encrypted data, be worthless to them, right? Another big one to talk about here is malicious JavaScript code. I jumped around that personal account login, but I'll circle back to that. The malicious JavaScript code, right? This is most commonly seen in different attacks like sock ghoulish, right? But it can also come from a content script run from the compromised extension, right? The bad guys will attempt to launch that code against the JavaScript engine inside the browser. Again, with Seraphic in place, we would have seen that malicious JavaScript go to run, and we would have blocked that attempt. So just to point out here in comparison to an EDR, EDRs do very good job at preventing unwanted code from running on the operating system, but they have no visibility to what's being executed inside of the browser. Right, that's where Seraphic comes in. We work very well hand in hand with your EDR. If we're covering that protection, that execution engine, the EDR covers it on the operating system. So again, any malicious code that goes run, we'll identify it and strip it out. Now, the personal account login, that's another interesting one to talk about. You can define policies inside Seraphic. So I can say, if I'm logging into a specific web page or a group of web pages or category of web pages, that you're required to use a company email domain and not a personal one, right? So we can make sure that all the data and interactions are governed based on your company's policy, and that the company never loses access to what's going into and coming out of those type of third-party SaaS applications. And then the last one, very pertinent to this example as well, is extension management. So Seraphic does a good job at identifying all the extensions installed across all of the browsers on your environment. And then we can apply specific controls based on that. We can do things like explicitly allow and explicitly block. Or we can use categories, right? So no AI related extensions are allowed, things like that. But more importantly, it's creating a criticality score based on what's installed, right? So I can say low and medium are allowed in my environment, but high and critical are blocked. And if you do that, if in this case, for example, the Cyberhaven incident, I could have Cyberhaven allowed by criticality, but when it updated and it started using OAuth 2 scopes and it started using heavy-handed content scripts, that would move that risk rating dynamically. There's no analysis needed on part of the admins, right? And that would have automatically moved that Cyberhaven and the other related extensions into a disabled state, right? Without any end user activity or any admin activity required there. You jump to the next slide, sir. Thank you. So just wanted to give a shot of our reports inside our console, right? So again, installed in all of the browsers across your enterprise, right? You can see there on the applications widget, right? We're listing out all of the browsers we see and we're running inside, right? Other interesting information would be entities at risk. I can see how many alerts are popping up on each of the devices. You can sort that with, in this case, it's email username, but I could do it by device name if I wanted to, just so I can see who has the most threats popping up on there, right? Allows you to get an understanding of who your happy clickers are, we like to say. I can, interesting information like the most visited destinations, right? Because we're operating inside the browser, we can log, if you want to, any web page that people are logging into, so you can get an understanding of what type of third-party, shadow IT systems people are logging into. And that allows you to create a control point, so I can decide what I want to my end users be able to log into through the organization. And then, of course, very pertinent to this conversation is the risky extensions widget. Right, so we'll show you which ones are running, and you can rank that based on severity. So I can see which extensions that I'm allowed in my environment that are currently presenting the most risk, right? And then again, if there's movement on that, you can set up control policies to ensure that they're automatically disabled if the severity of that extension changes. You jump to the next slide, please. And the last one I'll leave you with here, this is a detailed view of our risk analysis for extensions. So this is done for every extension installed in any browser Seraphic is protecting, right? And I can see interesting information here to help make a decision whether I want to allow this in my environment or not. So the ones I want to point out here, the security risk and privacy risk. This is an analysis done by our LLM models that includes taking into account the permissions that it has available, the content scripts it's running, external communications that the extension has, and if it's using OAuth 2 scopes, right? What those are and what they're if they're associated to your domain or not. Right, and the security risk by version, you can actually see with this extension that the criticality has changed over time. That's very important, first, to get an understanding of if something has changed, and then secondly, to see what it's changed to, right? I can see what the last version of it. And as I mentioned before, right now, this in the upper part there, you can see this is currently ranked as a medium criticality. So in the case of Cyberhaven, if they were medium and you had high and critical block, as soon as that bad update came across, it would have automatically moved this risk into, or the criticality score into a high. Actually, I think it was critical for this one. That would have automatically disabled that extension across your environment. Right. And the important thing to get across here is no analyst had to do anything with this. This is all automated on our back end. You don't have to go and research every extension in your environment to figure out what it is, what it does, and if you want it there. That information is already presented to you. All the analyst has to do is come inside our console and read it. So I know we're running up against time here. I did want to allow some time for questions.
So Jeremy, here's a question that came from Konstantin. How does Seraphic handle cross-site scripting and click jacking protection?
Good questions for sure. So the cross-site scripting and clickjacking are both built into the solution. It's a security threat, so it's on by default. All you have to do is browse to a page that's using cross-site scripting, and it will automatically block that attempt. Throws up an alert that's customizable with your organization logo. The clickjacking protection is another one that's hard to detect, but for Seraphic, it's actually very easy to detect, right? In that case, you typically have a normal login window as an example, and then there'll be an invisible iframe on top of that. So when the end user starts interacting with what they think is the login page, they're actually interacting with that malicious iframe, right? And it typically sends that information off to a place where they're scraping that data. We can see it very clearly because we're watching what loads and how it loads in every session. We can very easily see that there's an invisible iframe on top of that. So again, another policy that's on by default. So as soon as you install Seraphic, you're protected against both of those threats. It's a good question.
Let's take another one and then we will finalize because we're out of time, of course. Is Seraphic deployable via Intune or SCCM?
Yeah, the short answer to that is absolutely. Any software deployment tool that you use right now, it's very easy to deploy us. MSI on Windows or a PKG on Mac. We also have both of the Linux flavors as well. So the short answer is absolutely.
Perfect. With that segue, we just finished our first webinar in the series. So thank you, everyone. Thank you for joining us, and hope to see you in the next one. I hope it was valuable for you. We will take all the questions and we'll come back to you offline and answer it and send you by email. Thank you.